but yet he returned in forgiving love. I think that's the moment when Christianity is born.
Is Christianity metaphorical or metaphysical? Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Daily Dose of Christ. If a daily dose of the Savior is what you need, please be sure to like and subscribe. All right, so in this clip, Bishop Barron attempts to help Jordan Peterson understand the historical and orthodox understanding of the faith. So their conversation is going to center around Christ and the cross, and just really pay attention to how well Bishop Barron articulates the cross and what it ultimately means, okay? So let's watch this clip and I will have concluding remarks at the end.
Okay, so let's take that apart for just a sec so that people are clear about it. So the theory here is that there is something wrong with the structure of creation. That's its steepness and sin. And everyone has to ask if they believe that. And it seems to me that people do, is there's a sense that things aren't how they should be, that we're not how we could be, that something it has gone astray and is continuing to go astray, which is a mystery in and of itself if it's a God-created world. It's like, well, why is that precisely?
Well, I mean, the quick answer is corrupted freedom, you know, or a misguided freedom, you might say. But the word comes into flesh, into fallen flesh. And the cross is what? The cross is cruelty and hatred and violence and institutional injustice and stupidity. And, you know, if you read the Passion narratives, it's a beautiful sort of poetic presentation of all that's wrong with us that comes out to meet him. And bearing all of that, he continues in his relationship of obedience and unity with the Father. So bearing the sins of the world, bearing all the dysfunction and twisted quality of the world, he brings us back online. So in the attitude of the Word made flesh on the cross, we see a sinful, corrupt, hate-filled world now brought painfully back online. That's the sacrifice of the cross that's pleasing to the Father. So we should never play the game of, well, the Father is is a dysfunctional alcoholic father that, you know, is now demanding this blood sacrifice. It's rather the Father is pleased by the Son's entry into our fallen situation and his bearing of all that dysfunction, even as he brings us back online to the Father.
Okay, so so let's say Christ maintains his, I know this isn't exactly the right way of thinking about it, but it'll work for rhetorical purposes, I think. So Christ is tortured by betrayal, by physically and spiritually as well, because the best way to torment someone is to punish them despite their innocence, right?
Yeah,
so, right. Or maybe worse than that, to punish them because of their virtues. That's even better. And so that's intrinsic in the story as well. Christ bears up under that. He doesn't repudiate God, or doesn't repudiate his own essence. It's something like that. Then what is the example of that? Is the example of bearing up under that exceptional duress and maintaining a moral stance? Is that the example that redeems the world? Is it that if you do that in your own life, the world is de facto redeemed?
It is that, but more, because if it's just that, then a Pelagian system would be true, that we just need a good, moral exemplar. It's something more,
well, a bit more than just merely good. I mean, it's superhuman what's being asked for.
No, true, but it's something more metaphysical about it. It's a reworking of the way things are. If Jesus takes upon himself all the dysfunction of the world and swallows it up in the ever greater divine mercy, so it's Christ bearing all of our dysfunction, but transfiguring it in his great act of forgiveness and obedience to the Father. I think all of that coming together simultaneously is the sacrifice that's pleasing to the Father. In some ways, the word from the cross, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do, is the most important. Or play with this too, Jordan, that after the resurrection, so Jesus comes back precisely to those who had denied him and betrayed him and run from him in his moment of greatest need. And in almost any telling of a similar story, if that had all happened, and then the person who had died is back from the dead, and he appears to those who had abandoned him, you'd expect him to, wreak havoc on them, right? So Jesus shows his wounds, to be sure, because the wounds of Jesus are a sign of the world's dysfunction. If I'm ever tempted, when we were younger, the book, I'm okay, you're okay came out, right? And so we're always tempted to say, well, basically we're okay, just need a little fixing up around the edges. Whenever we're tempted to say that, it's the wounds of Jesus that say otherwise. Because
that's why I was insisting earlier that I don't, that it isn't merely misguided good that turns people towards the darkness. It's voluntary desire to produce the darkness as well. Anyways, I do take that very seriously. And it's an interesting idea, is that the ideal is wounded in proportion to the degree that everything has deteriorated away from the ideal. And that's almost by definition true, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. But it's just the very act of the will itself is structured in such a way it has to be seeking some kind of at least apparent good. But that's our earlier issue. So the wounds show the dysfunction of the world, which the Son of God took upon himself. But then the word of shalom, which is in all the resurrection accounts, that Jesus says, peace. So when Paul, for example, says, I'm certain that neither death nor life, nor angels nor principalities, nor height nor depth, nor any other creature could ever separate us from the love of God. Well, how does he know that? Because we killed God, and he returned with a word of forgiveness. So that means it's like the divine goodness and forgiveness can trump any evil, even the evil of killing God. So we killed him, but yet he returned in forgiving love. I think that's the moment when Christianity is born.
To summarize and conclude, the brokenness of the world stems from humanity's misuse of their own free will, leading to deep moral and spiritual dysfunction. The cross stands as the ultimate symbol of this dysfunction, highlighting the depths of human sin and error. The Pelagian view, which sees Christ only as a moral example, misses the profound truth that Jesus' wounds are a sign of the world's real, intangible brokenness. His sacrificial death on the cross is not merely exemplary, but transformative, as it reconciles humanity with God and brings true peace to a fallen world. Christianity is real, not symbolic, metaphysical, not metaphorical. This is what I learned and observed while watching Bishop Barron today. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.